So, as somebody who is very interested in this subject and has read a lot about similar stuff and is spiritual on a level, how do you explain it for you? Is this meditation the voice that comes through the writings? Wilhelm, who is, I assume like a higher form of Roger, or one of your guides who talks to you. What is your explanation of this? Is it like subconscious? Is it a higher spiritual realm? Is it a universal mind? What is it?
It's interesting because when I first started doing it, like I said, it was very disconcerting, and I thought, okay, you're just a really nuts person, and why are you doing this? And so, when I first got the message, I wish that I have saved all of them for these 30 years, but the very first ones I somehow lost and can't find, but I do remember it. And I asked the question, who's speaking to me? And I got the message that said very clearly, this is another part of you. This is another part of who you are. However, if you are uncomfortable with that, which obviously I was, you can call us whatever you want. That's what came up. And then in that moment, the name Wilhelm came to me. I thought, okay, I'll call you Wilhelm. That felt safer because then it felt like, oh, some great being is speaking to me, and that makes it okay. Because I couldn't accept that maybe I had access to this information, that maybe this was just another part of me. And I've carried that on forever because it still becomes a little sometimes weird and uncomfortable because I know a lot of people see it that way. But I also believe that everyone has the ability to do that, to get that kind of information, that kind of connection.
So you believe that everybody has a higher self or another part of themselves that is wiser, deeper, knows universal truths, answers that they can connect with.
Yes. And I think it happens all the time. And sometimes we think it's just we're hearing stuff, something's talking to us. We think it's us sometimes. But I think that a lot of times we are getting that information or advice, we're just not interpreting it that way.
So what do you think is the biggest blockage for someone that blocks them from hearing that or being in touch with that part of themselves?
Believing that there's nothing else but just right here, that there's nothing beyond this reality that we see. And that's the thing that would not allow us to think that maybe information comes from other places, and that was my experience too. It was just a little, even though I had studied so many other things. I'd done spiritual work. I had done meditation, like I said before. I even had a period of time where I worked with some friends that did a Ouija board and messages would come through that way. That was very weird. People thought that was completely crazy, but I was open to hearing it. And then I started understanding that if it feels right to you, what difference does it make where it comes from? That's what started to come up. And I talk about this in my program in Overcoming Everything. I started many years ago. I was reading a book, one of the Seth books. Jane Roberts wrote probably the most famous one, If Seth Speaks. And Jane Roberts was a woman who would sit and basically channel this entity known as Seth. And I was reading this stuff when I was so young, and none of it made any sense. I thought this was really crazy stuff. But then later on, it started to kind of come up a little bit more. And then I kept reading the book. Over the decades, I've read this book. I'm on my fourth or fifth reading of this book. It's like 600 some pages. Because I keep getting more and more. I keep understanding more and more. So I think because also it exposed me to the possibility of other things being there, I was more open to the information coming through me.